Welcome to Lombardia, the final classic of the season and the big one-day race for the climbers. So this breakaway of 6, starting the climb of the Madonna del Ghisallo, which begins the finale of the race. So 4 major climbs between here and the finish. The finish at the bottom of a short descent. Could come down to a very small reduced group sprint, but with Lombardia, it can happen in so many different ways, so we'll just have to sit back and find out ourselves. So this is the group of 5, Jesper Skibby, George Hincapie, Jerry Kniedeman, Alessandro De Marchi, and I believe that's Peo Ruiz at the back. It is. So 5 survivors of the break. But less than a minute ahead of the peloton, which has increased its tempo over the past few kilometers. So for these 5, their adventure off the front will end pretty soon. Lombardia, one of the oldest classics on the calendar. It's become a bit more mountainous throughout its history, and now it takes in the climb surrounding Lake Como in the north of Italy, usually starting or finishing in the towns of Como and of Bergamo. It's nicknamed the Race of the Falling Leaves because on the annual calendar, usually happening around October. It's certainly one of the most scenic races of the season. But now we are down to 3. It is Hincapie, Skibby, and De Marchi. Be interesting to see who is working at the front of the peloton. The big favorites today, Julian Alaphilippe, how could you not mention the top scoring rider? Also Stan Åkers and Andy Schleck, I think will be some of the big protagonists. So we'll see who's up for the big attacks later on, starting with the Muro di Sormano, which is the next climb on the docket. As De Marchi is shut off the back. And it's the peloton led by Evian riders who have swept them up. So Mark Madio will bring the main field to the bottom of the next climb. Now the second half of the Coma di Sormano is extremely steep. I'd say it averages around 18% for the last 2.5 kilometers. And that will force a pretty major selection of the top climbers. So Hincapie and Skibby starting the climb. But Mark Madio and the rest of the Evian riders breathing down their neck. Now here comes Bianchi Campagnolo. So after VeloTour, Bianchi slipped down into second after La Vie Claire got fourth with Andre Dargade. They'll be looking to retake first place with Stan Åkers today, or perhaps even Pascal Richard or some of their other riders. Could be up there. La Vie Claire just hoping to keep pace. They do have Gustav Peterson, who should be able to be up around the top 10 riders. But we turn left here onto the Muro di Sormano, the steep wall. And Jan Adriaanson's looking to raise the tempo, but he's just cracked. Let's see who takes it up now. Evian is continuing to pile the pressure. I think that's Mark Madio. And you see the rider starting to scramble to stay near the front. It's Choman Peruena working for Andy Schleck, making the race hard for everybody else. Making one final big effort, now he's popped. We're on the really steep part now. And here comes Philippe Gilbert. Now Marco Pantani, his teammate, also in this race, so a powerful 1-2 punch. Coming up towards the top. Frank Schleck takes up the pace. His brother Andy, almost on his wheel. I think that's Stan Åkers right there, and Bjarne Riis must be the last one, and he is. So these 4 have gone over first. And see the riders who have really cracked on the climb will have to scramble to get back on. There's Gustav Peterson attacking out of the second group. We have 2 Blackberry riders, Onglad and Alaphilippe, still up there. Marshall Guyon for Fiat is there. And I think that's Gert-Jan Tunisso representing Zulu Kingdom. But this is the front 4. Bjarne Riis, the leader for this race, so Frank Schleck has to work at the front. He's not one of the great descenders, so I think some riders will come back to these 4 at the bottom. But on the steepest climb on the route, these 3 were the strongest, or 4 rather. We'll see if that remains over the final 2 climbs. But at the bottom of this descent is an undulating valley road, kind of goes up and down a bit. And then we have a very steep climb called the Civilio near the finish. Andy Schleck at the back here is really not a very good descender, and he's struggling a little bit to hold the wheels. Goes to Peterson around 20 seconds back. Seems like he'll get back on terms soon, and then a group of 11 just a bit further behind. And we're into the valley by the lake. Goes to Peterson, just trying to make up those final few meters. Andy has, so Peterson back in the fold. They should be joined by these 11 shortly. But Peterson's only job in this race is to stay at the front as long as possible. He doesn't need to win, but if Stan Ockers were to finish in the top 3 and Laviclaire were to get effectively nothing, that would be a big deficit to overcome in the Tour de France. So this is the title chase in action, the duel between Bianchi and Laviclaire playing out on the road. And of course the dark horse Evian, it's all about Andy Schleck today. See if he can get one over on the top 2 teams. But Frank Schleck, his brother, running out of steam. The chase group has returned, so 16 riders at the front and 25 Ks to go. From Choman Peruena to the front for Andy Schleck. The Civilio, the next climb, also very steep. Not quite as awful as the Muro di Sormano, but certainly hard enough to cause another big sort out in this group. Especially with some riders tired after a long few kilometers of chasing. See Peruena. Legs have gone. And the pace has slowed. There is another group of 10 riders around a minute behind. I don't think they'll rejoin in time for the Civilio, but they've certainly been able to make up some ground. Now the rider's getting in position, they'll turn left onto the Civilio. And it's Bjarne Riis who hits it first. Riis controlling the tempo. He is quite a good sprinter, so as long as he can get rid of the likes of Julien Alaphilippe, he has a good chance to win if he's still at the front in the end. Riding a steady tempo so far. Of course, all the riders will be looking to get rid of Julien Alaphilippe because he has won so many races this season from reduced sprints, so they have to get rid of him if they want a chance to win. But no major attacks coming on the Civilio. Bjarne Riis just riding tempo. There's one more little hill after this one, San Ferma di Battaglia, but it's not nearly hard enough to cause enough damage to get rid of someone like Alaphilippe, so the move has to come pretty soon. But it hasn't come yet, so a surprising stagnation so far. Henny Kuiper still with enough strength to come do some pacemaking. We've lost a couple riders from this group, 2 to be exact, but 14 still together at this stage in the race. That is quite a lot of riders. But we have a fast descent now and then the final climb, so if any decisive moves are to come, it will come on that short 2.5 kilometer incline near the finish. Here's that twisting descent. Alaphilippe, I think, is the second Blackberry rider in the line. He is the danger man. He has 1,300 more points scored this season than anybody else. The preeminent superstar of the peloton. Henny Kuiper setting the tempo. Stan Ockers third in line. And we're on to the climb now. It's Kuiper who will give everything he has left. And here comes the first move. It is Andy Schleck who has started the hostilities. I believe that's Pantani on his wheel along with Bjarne Riis and Stan Åkers. And that move, coming right at the bottom of the climb, has caught everyone else by surprise. And Åker is looking to go over the top of Schleck. Big effort for Andy Schleck to follow the wheel of Stan Åkers, but he's still got it. Over the top of the climb. They've gapped the other two just a bit, but they could get back on. These are the chasers led by Ghost of Peterson. 4Ks to go, but it's basically downhill to the finish. So this might have been the decisive move, these four going off the front. Marco Pantani, a very good descender, who's quickly got back to the wheel of Andy Schleck. Coming up to the last kilometer, 4 riders, it's going to be a 4-up sprint. Åkers has to lead it out. Launching his move from the line, Pantani starts off quickly, but he fades away, and Stan Åkers at last wins a race. Bjarne Riis taking second, Schleck is third, and Pantani taking 4th place. And Julian Alaphilippe certainly could have won the sprint if he was in that top 4 because he leads home the rest in 5th place. His teammate Vogler is 6th. But a huge success for Bianchi Campagnolo, winning the race with Stan Åkers and their big rivals La Vie-Claire mustering 10th and 11th. So a big point advantage goes to Bianchi. They will ascend back into 1st place and will hold that into the Tour de France. The race for the title intensifying even further. We said in the last update that it looked good for La Vie-Claire because of the Tour de France presenting better opportunities for them. But this win by Bianchi certainly complicates matters, and I think it's going to be a lot closer than we would have thought. But here's the replay of that 4-man sprint. It was Åkers who had to lead, but he had the power and he timed it properly, staying away from everybody else. A small group coming through to take the minor placings. But Stan Åkers, who was the 2nd highest scoring rider heading into this race, but he still hadn't won yet, but that has changed now, taking a big classic victory. In that 2nd group, officially at 12 seconds down, quite a large group of riders to be up at the front and Lombardia at the end. So it's Stan Åkers, Bjarne Riis, Andy Schleck 3rd, Pantani 4th, Julian Alaphilippe 5th, Thomas Vogler 6th, Marshall Gaillant 7th for Fiat, Henri Anglade 8th for BlackBerry, Santiago Botero 9th for BlackBerry, that's his best result this season, and John Kirkin 10th for La Vie-Claire. Quietly a good day for BlackBerry. They would have liked to win, but they still got 4 in the top 10, so they will defend their top 4 place, I imagine. And look at Andre Dargad in 16th place. He scored some points for his team, the big sprinter dragging himself over the big mountains to get up onto the results screen. So brilliant result for Andre Dargad. His team would have liked a better top 10 placing, but they'll have to be happy with their big sprinter.